What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Basis Damage, and as the title says, we are bringing to you a Mushoku Tensei 8-bar budget deck this week. This was mostly brewed up by Moroku from the channel, and basically he showed this to me and said, hey, I want to get this to work because there's cards I have to omit. For the most part, this is completely and totally budget. The only thing is we could include a copy, or we could include a particular level 0 that this Rudred has an early play condition for, but that's a double rare that's like $10 to $11 a piece. I'll proof on screen now, and he's like, I can't run that. We have to run some other shit, and this was his version of it. I've been doing test playing on it. I've played against it. I've just really tried to see what all could be done and what could be tweaked. But a lot of the stuff doesn't really need a lot of changing. It mostly focuses on the character Sylphette. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. Her level 1 combo and the level 3 Rudred combo that has become a little bit popular with there was a Mushoku Tensei standby deck that actually used this as the top end. I think it was Randall that made it. It's really cool, and I honestly am going to mess with that build some myself on the simulator. But for the most part, this is completely and totally budget. I'll explain prices a bit more once I get to the very end of it. But the double rares and the rares are very, very cheap in green. And the yellow cards in here are stupidly cheap. Even this trial deck card is only like 50 cents. So let's get into the deck. It is primarily green, but we do have a couple yellow cards, and that is starting off with, we have this 3/2 10k Life's starting line Rudius. If your waiting room has 2 or less climaxes, it gets -1 level in your hand. And when this card is placed on stage from your hand, you may pay the cost, which is discard 1 card. If you do, put the top card of your clock into your stock, and that is just really nice to have an early play that you can heal. Because, like I said, this Rudred right here, which we'll get to in a second, has an early play and it heals. But we don't run that. So we don't run that level 0 Rudy, because then this turns from a budget deck to a, shit, I actually have to fork out money deck type thing. We have 1 copy of this 3/2 tomboyish childhood friend Sylphette is a 9,500. If your memory, which this is a memory-based deck off of a particular level 0, which we'll go over in a minute. If you have 2 or more copies of that level 0 Sylphette in your memory, this card gets 1,500 power and character encore. As well as, this is always a nice effect to have, which I can understand why he teched this in. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you can pay 1 stock. If you do, your opponent puts all of their stock into the waiting room and puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. It's buns for luck on a character. There's other characters in the game that do have this effect, but it's just really nice to see this in Mushoku Tensei. So being able to just pop that off and oh, I know you sitting there with some very nice clean stock. Be a shame if something happened to it, type thing. So that's really cool. And next is the level 3 Rudred. This is a really nice Rudred. It takes the talent from Magic Rudius. If you have that in your clock, it gets -1 level in hand. So if you want to invest the money for that Rudius, you can invest that in this, but you don't need it. This heals on play, and then at the beginning of your climax phase, you can bounce this back to your hand. If you do, choose the other level 3 Rudred that's in the deck in your hand and put it on the stage position that this card was on. So you get to play 2 cards for the price of 1, because you hard cast this, and then it summons this for free. And then this effect, this card's effects goes off, which obviously is the next card. So this 3/2 10/5, it's a little bit oversized, so you would think there would be a drawback. I guess the drawback is it doesn't heal, where the other level 3 does. But it's, if I'm going to mispronounce this, Warrior of the Supered Race, Rudred. There's a lot of names in Mushoku Tensei that just I don't know how to pronounce. But it is on play on stage from hand, all of your opponent's characters get -X power until end of turn. X is equal to that character's level times 1,000. So if they just have, okay, the rule in Weiss is if your character's power goes to 0 or less, it dies. So imagine just obviously you're not going to get this off against a lot of characters, but it's just really funny if being able to play multiples of these. It won't kill level 0s, obviously. But if your opponent has like back row level 1s and 2s, like a level assist and stuff like that, and you drop 3 of this, there's a good chance you could just straight pop their back rows that are like their assist that are higher levels, which is just hilarious to me. Like imagine like the Armins, the level 3 Armin. I don't remember how much attack power it has. I'll look that up later, but I'm assuming it doesn't have much. It's a back row assist that gives your like the characters in front of it a buff and hexproof. So, so the Armin could just potentially die if you play 3 of this, and then they lose all of their buffs plus extra. It's just hilarious to me. And then the Climax combo is when this card attacks, if Dead End is in your Climax area, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Choose up to 2 cards amongst them, put them back on top of the deck in any order, and put the rest into their waiting room. Look at up to 2 cards from the top of your own deck, and then choose 2 cards amongst them. Repeat the same process. Put 2 on top of your deck. Put the other into your the rest into your waiting room. What this lets you do is essentially the same as the Mocha level 3 from Bang Dream, where you can look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and see if there's any climaxes, and just toss them, and just I see these are, there's a climax in a character. Get rid of the climax to the waiting room, put the character back on top of their deck, and it makes it so you have better chances of your damage sticking. Which is also funny because this doesn't need to reverse for these effects, considering how it's hilarious that it doesn't have to reverse, but it can make it, its first effect makes it so the characters on your opponent's stage are more than likely going to die regardless. So it's just really crazy. So, obviously, and this is a double rare. This is an extremely cheap double rare. So, just saying. And that's it for the level 3s. We're going to get into the level 2s, which is just one, well, no, it's 2 cards. There's an event that's a level 2. We'll get to that. I'll go ahead and say that after this one. This promo Sylphet is a 2/1 2500 backup. If you use this card's backup, choose a 6-sided world character, which is the entire deck. Choose one of those characters in battle, it gets an extra 1,000. So it's just an extra 3,500 backup, which is great. So we're going to bounce down to the events because it is a level 2. This 2/1 Sylph event. It's green if you have 1 or less 6-sided world characters. This can't be played from hand, but you can. It's also a backup event. This is actually crazy. So you can choose one of the following 2 effects and perform it. Either give a character 4K power, which is insane, or you can discard an additional copy of this event from hand to make it so the character that's battling your opponent's character, can't deal damage to a player. Which is just, so it's just a straight up money counter. Well, let's say money counter. It's an anti-damage event that you just have to have 2 copies of in hand or more, and then just make it so your opponent just can't deal damage to you with their big shit, which is hilarious. So that's it for the level 2s. The level 1s, we have In the Sunlight Sylphet. It's a 1/145. It's a level assist. And when your character's trigger check reveals a climax with the gold bar, which there's 8 gold bars in this deck, you can draw 1 card and then discard 1 card. So if you have too many of the gold bars in hand from triggering, you get to draw a card and then you can pitch those gold bars afterwards, especially if you don't need them. So, because gold bars will just clog up your hand. Any player knows this who runs an 8-bar deck. Shout outs to Lunchbox. Next, we have 1 copy of Studying with Rudy Sylphet. It's a 1/135. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if your memory has 2 or less cards, you can choose that specific level 0 Sylphet that has to go to memory and put it into your memory, from waiting room to memory. Also, this is a anti-change reverser. When it becomes reversed, you can put the top card of your opponent's clock into their waiting room, and if you do, put that character into your opponent's clock, specifically if it is if it's an early play, if their level is higher than your opponent's level. Then we have the level 1 combo, which once again, actually, let's go ahead and bounce to the level 0 that needs to go to memory first, because most of the other cards in the deck are going to base off of that real quick. So this level 0 double rare Smile to be Protected Sylphet. I emphasize double rare because this is like a 10-cent card, which is hilarious. All of your other 6-sided world characters get 500 power, so just a global 500 is good. Then a act of pay 1, put this card into your memory, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose a 6-sided world amongst them, add it to your hand, put the rest into a waiting room. So this puts itself into memory. And cards like this level 1 Sylphette, this Pure and Innocent Heart Sylphette is also a double rare, extremely cheap. It's a 1/0/45. When it attacks, if you have this at least 1 copy of the Sylphette level 0 in memory, it gains an extra 2k power, which is significant because it does have to reverse. But there's plenty of other cards in here that buff, so you can get the on reverse no problem. But that means with the Climax combo, because it's a 1k1 gold bar, makes her a 1/0/75. So then, when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, if the smile you gave, which is this one, is in your Climax area, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose a 6-sided world character, reveal it to your opponent, add it to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. Then choose one of your characters, and that character gets plus 2,000 power till end of turn. You can give that to other copies of this cell, so you swing with 1, you kill something guaranteed. Then you have a bigger target that another one of the copies is trying to get over, and you give that extra power to that other copy. So it goes from, that second copy would go from a 1/0/75 to a 1/0/95. And if you have a copy of, like an extra copy of the Global 500 in back row, it's a 1/0/10k, which is just hilarious. It's like, you have to reverse, but you're gonna get the reverses off, which is great. So then next we have 3 copies of Friends Sylphette, is a 1/0/45. As long as you have 2 or more other 6-sided world characters, she gets 1,000 power. So she can be, she's a constant 1/0/55, which is vanilla. But when this attacks, if you have that same level 0 Sylphette in memory, choose one of your other 6-sided world characters, it gets 2k power for the turn. Once again, you're able to like casually buff up at least 1 copy of this Sylphette to like a 10k before its own buffs go off if you have more copies. So just more buffing for the reverse is really good. Then we have 3 copies of this 1/0 Sylphette, is if you have another character with Rudius in its card name, this gets an extra 3k power. This one was a little bit awkward, but half the time you can just have like this level 0 Rudius sitting in the back row. Or if you have the level 3 on field, if you're able to early play this level 3, you can still play this. I did contemplate sometimes just nixing this card altogether in the test playing, just to see what would happen, but there were plenty of instances where it came up, where it was just big, a free 1/0/65 before any other buffs, like in case I wasn't able to get like a Climax to pop off or whatever, which is rare in an 8-bar deck, I understand, but sometimes it just happens. That's Weiss Schwarz for you. So it's an interesting little thing I just like to have, but it also isn't completely necessary. So you can change this out if you want, which, like I said, I'll explain prices at the very end of this, because I was very surprised at how budget-friendly this deck was when I priced it out on TCG Player, and I'll show you the results. Then we get to the level 0s. First off, we have this Unraveling Heart. Lilia is a 0/0/15. It has 2 effects, a tap effect of choose one of your characters, and that character gets the following ability until end of turn, that when the battle opponent becomes reversed, you can put that character into your opponent's stock. If you do, put the bottom card of their stock into the waiting room. So a very nice, like, a little bit extra removal utility on a common card, which is pretty cool. It also has an act. Now, these are 2 different rest effects, so you have to pick which one you want to do. You can rest this and discard an event, so you can discard extra copies of the Sylph event at level 0 or whatever to get your level 1 combo off or something, or to get set up for your combos, because the Sylph event is a level 2. You can't play those early on. So just really nice if you just want to pitch extra copies of those. You can salvage back a 6-sided world character from your waiting room and add it to your hand. So really nice, a little bit extra utility. And this level 0 Graduation Exam Rudius is, like I said, it's from the trial deck. When this attacks, you can pitch a card to send one of your other 6-sided world characters back to your hand. So that's really cool. And when this card becomes reversed, if this card's battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may put that character into your opponent's stock, and if you do, put the bottom card of your opponent's stock into their waiting room. A lot of like stock kick and whatnot off of the yellow cards in this deck. So just, and there's your yellow basically for being able to early play the Rudius, which is no problem. But yeah, and this one is a little bit of a toss-up. I very much want more copies of this card in the deck, so I think any future iterations I will put more of this in here. but I'm just going with the build that that Mushoku gave me. As this 002500 Eye on the Forehead Rudyard. When this is placed on stage from hand, you can put one card from your hand into your clock. So you're dealing yourself a damage to search your deck for any six-sided world character and add it to your hand. So if you don't care about damage and whatnot, you can easily just drop this several times and just get the damage. Grab your level 1 Sylphets or whatever, and you're good. We already covered this, but like I said, just reiterating, this is the Sylphet that goes into memory for a lot of the effects in the deck. So this is like the pivotal part of the deck if you want it to pop off. You just need to get 1 into memory for most of the effects, but you do need 2 in memory if you want the level 3 to get its full buffs. And lastly, we have 4 copies. Oh, let me see. So, yeah, 4 copies. I was like, wait, is it 4 or 3? 4 copies of this Angel's Haven Sylphet is a 001K. As long as you have the that level 0 Sylphet right here in your memory, it gets an additional global 500 onto your field. So depending on how your setup is, as long as you have like a copy of this and a copy of the Brainstormer in back row, you're giving a global 1000 first off and a Brainstormer that can just pop off whenever. It's a pay 1, rest 2 characters. Mill 5 for every gold bar, search your deck for a six-sided world character and add it to your hand. So mill 5 on climaxes is really nice to see now. I like seeing those, especially like in trial deck cards or whatever, those like, oh, mill 5 and draw. But this is mill 5 and for every gold bar, which is the entire deck, in terms of entire climax setup for the deck, you can easily, get a mill off with this and be able to search your deck and get set up. So I've guaranteed mandatory 4 of just straight up. And then, like I said, 4 copies of the Sylph event we already went over. 4 copies of The Smile You Gave, which is the climax for the level 1 combo. And 4 copies of Dead End, which is the Rudyard level 3 combo. There's other interesting little combos I think are also off of like gold bars for like Sylphet and Rudyard in the Mushoku Tensei set. But this is what we went with, and it's honestly really fucking cool. Now, the even better part about this is the price point, which I will show a screenshot of. I went on TCG Player and set up a cart of this deck prior to recording. And this is, late May 2023 when I'm recording this. And it is extremely cheap. I ended up getting a cart of 5 different sellers, which is, you're going to have shipping from each individual seller. And I got multiple copies. I got play sets of most of the cards. Not every single card, but I did pick up extra copies of every single card that's in here because like there's only like 1 copy in here, but I went ahead and put a play set in the cart on TCG Player. And about 68, I was like 1 off from like 69, I think. 68, almost 70 cards was less than $20. And that's not even necessary. If I cut it down to like the exact ratios that are in this deck, you probably wouldn't have but less than $15. And that was before taxes. So depending on where you're at, the tax might be different. But for me, it was less than $20 before tax for this entire deck, plus a ton of extras. So in case I wanted to change ratios, in case you would want to change your own ratios, you can pick up playsets of practically every single card in here and just adjust them how you wish. And it's really cool. Even the promos, the double rares I'll show on screen were very cheap. The rares were also extremely cheap. Probably the most expensive one, and this is not kidding, was the level 0 Rudyard, like I said, was about 50 cents. And the level 0 Rudyard here ranged between like 25, 50 cents, and like almost $1. So it just kind of depended on which seller you got them from, but you're able to like squeeze out 1, obviously, for this deck build. If not, like maybe 2 copies. Just change it up how you want, but for the most part, this build right here was very, very fun. I dropped it on Joe several times. I think we already had this in one of the random games. I can't remember. I think I have gameplay of this still. If I haven't shown it already on the channel, maybe I'll do that in the future. But yeah, no, this is really fun, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. Thank you very much to Mushoku, and thank you very much to you watching as well. Please like and subscribe if you want. If not, hey, thanks for stopping by for this deck build. It is extremely budget, under $20, and that's if you don't get like the extras like I did. And yeah, just really, really cool. And that'll do for now. We will see you on the flip side. Peace.